This is Melinda Roy.
Hi, Melinda. I'm fine. How are you?
I am good. So, are you enjoying the presentations today?
Yeah, I'm ready.
So, before you start your presentation, I would like to give a brief introduction to the audience. So, yes, welcome on stage, Babs with Vaklova. So, Babs with Vaklova is a trauma therapist specializing in complex PTSD and related conditions such as eating disorders, addiction, borderline personality disorder, disassociation, and anxiety. A personal journey led her to study the mind over 30 years ago, completing various training programs, including the Silva method, NLP, CBT, hypnotherapy, and rapid transformation therapy. She also explored non traditional modalities like Reiki, Tarot, and energy work. Barb applies her extensive knowledge to help clients recover from traumatic events through her trauma response reprogramming program, which has shown significant positive results. She mentors and educates other therapists and coaches to become trauma recovery specialists through her complex PTSD blueprint for therapists and coaches course. Bob also hosts the podcast Way Out of Childhood Trauma, sharing her insights and vision. Wow, that's really a great introduction of Bob Smith. Yes, you can occupy the stage.
Thank you. Thank you. It's amazing to be here. Thank you for having me. And there was so many already amazing presentations and speeches. So we had a lot of stories about people overcoming their past and changing their future. And that's the topic of my today speech about how we can change the future. It's calling the becoming the woman without trauma responses, but it's valid also for the men because it's actually not really gender exclusive. But as we have a lot of women here in audience, and speaking about the women, uh, I focus in the beginning on that. I will share my slides with you, and we can start. So when we speak about trauma, a lot of people have that vision that it's something huge which happened in the past. If it was sexual attack, if it was physical the most of people. And we had a lot of examples already today in the speeches of others about poverty, about strict parents or parents who are not present, or development of beliefs as that we are not good enough, that we cannot compete, that our position in society is unequal with others. So sources of trauma it's many and much wider than people expecting. My own story is different from many others, but similar in many ways. I grew up in communism era, which for many people have no idea what it's mean. But what is meant? It's limited movement, limited food, limited what we can think. And if you don't agree with that, you are in some form of punished. So I grew up in watching my parents to fight for what they believe. I was watching my parents to not be allowed to work in their professions or with the limited income. I watched my mom suffer physically when wasn't allowed to move for better accommodation, which would allow for her disability after accident. We didn't get support we needed on mental or physical levels. So, but I find out that it doesn't matter, truth be told, what happened to us, and we all have different stories, and nobody's trauma is bigger than others because in the end, it was that our biggest problem we had. But what we have a lot of our in common is that how we deal with that and why it's what is common. Because the trauma representing in the life of people in many varieties, and so most of people would find in some form how it's representing in their lives or in the lives the people around them, their colleagues, their family members, their friends. If we will start just with lack of confidence or self-esteem, lack of boundaries, eating disorders, any abuse of drug or alcohol, anything which making us to go into some another reality, very what is now growing very much are all different type of addictions. If it's the addictions to social media, if it's the addiction to the porn or sex, and that are all just coping mechanisms for trauma, but also things which could be almost celebrated as workaholism and huge dedication to the work and just going to the work instead of dealing with what's happening. Anger issues, and they are not just for men. A lot of women suffer with anger issues, outbursts of anger, and they don't know where it's coming from, that rage toward their children, toward their partners. Shopaholics, burnout, depression, panic attacks, nightmares, insomnia, disassociation, unstable relationship, not trusting yourself, not trusting others, fear of all kind, change, success, addiction, being self, being happy, being successful, and also physical manifestation of the trauma on the body, all kinds of pains, autoimmune disorders, digestive issues, headaches, migraines, and the worst way, cancer. So we all facing in many ways, or most of us, in some form, trauma in our lives, or when see it around us. But very important is that sorry, I'm sharing the slides, so I don't know if why they aren't visible. Very important is to realize that they have all common background in what is happening in our lives, because we all know about trauma responses, fight and flight. We know that we need them and they are natural, and we can see them in our reactions. If something big happened, we will fight to make that person go out or flight from that situation. But when we are facing situation which is not fulfilling our needs, when the children are witnessing the domestic violence, when they are afraid that they are left alone, when they are afraid that they're not fulfilling.
Hello.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hi. Are you
Hello.
changing?
Yes, Melinda.
Are you changing your slides because we are not able to see the slides you are changing?
Yeah, I do changing them, and it's saying you are presenting, and I see them. Do you see them now?
We can see only the first slide. That's it. The change the future, become a woman with a trauma responses. That is the only one we can see. Yeah, now it is changing. Fight, fight, peace, fawn.
Yeah.
Can you
Okay.
change one
So
more?
now
Can you change one more? I want to.
yeah. Do you see change?
No. I think you have some network issue.
Yeah,
And
she's saying that. She said that she see them now, so hopefully. Anyway, there is not much on my slides. I'm just using them as the guides through the speech.
okay.
So
Yeah.
what I was speaking about is that we have the 4 trauma responses, and we can see it in all these stories we have today. and probably Moni you will hear. And they are about fight, flight, freeze, and fawn. But very important is that most of the things we speak just in the last five presentation, they are about the responses which are freeze and fawn, because that are responses which we developing as the children. And we developing them as the children because we cannot move from that situation. We cannot escape that situation. And fight and flight is about escaping situation, change the situation. Children cannot do that. They don't have that power. They are small and they learn to adapt what is happening around them. So they starting developing the freeze response of being quiet, being silenced, start disassociate, start suppressing their emotions. But very important thing is that when we start suppressing our emotions, we're not suppressing just emotions of anger or fear. We're suppressing all emotions. It's leading to people be unhappy, depressed, and anxiety. Because emotions not supposed to be inside us. Emotions is a reaction to the outside event. So if we standing in front of the crowd and we cannot speak up because our neck will close and we cannot get the words out, it's reaction from inside. It's a response. We don't think about it. And we can see it in a relationship when people get angry and for no reasons. We can see it in work environment when people cannot say what they want, they cannot express their boundaries, they cannot go for what they want. We can see it in ability being overthinking things because that inner fear going on and people cannot focus. So there is many labels and we can say that people suffer with many different things as anxiety, depression, but also outbursts of anger or anger issues, borderline personality disorders, disassociation, ultimate dissociation identity personality, then multiple personality disorders. But they all have the same and common root. And that also mean that we are able to fix that. We are able to change that because that understanding that our mind created these responses mean that we know that our mind is adaptive, that our mind have that ability to change that, and we can change it back. We can stop it. And I hear so much people telling, unfortunately still, that oh, that's not possible. You need to learn to live with trauma responses. You need to learn to live with your PTSD or your complex PTSD or with your panic attacks. You need to learn to manage them. It's not possible to manage. It's response. It's just coming. And I was told it when I was 17 years old, and I was diagnosed with chronic fatigue syndrome, and that's I would not wish that to my worst enemy. That's terrible feeling of complete pain, total exhaustion, and my daily achievement was get to the toilet. And I was told, learn to live with that. I said, like, no, I will not learn to live with that. And nobody should learn to live with their trauma responses, because then we passing them on. Our trauma and our trauma responses causing trauma to our children, to our parents, and we just cannot break the circle. So that recovery is possible, and we need to realize that we all have that ability to change that. We all have the inner parts, which if they working, they can recover, they can get us to the present moment, because the goal of recovery from any type of trauma is being present, make the choices from the present moment, not have any triggers, and actually thrive in life. So all these wishes we have to be successful in work, to be have the good relationships, to have great relationship with our children and help them to grow to amazing adults, all that have the common denominator, and it's our ability and our state of being as the purposeful happy adults we are able to cope with things. Because when we are able to cope with that, we can teach our children, we can help our partners, we can help our parents, we can start helping whole society to change. And it's my motto, the change the world by one person at a time, because the knock-off effect on families is enormous. And we all have the 5 parts in ourselves, which are functional part of ourselves. But when we going through childhood trauma, so for example, when Esther spoke about that they were silent, they weren't allowed to express themselves, we start suppressing that the parts to the level that they become almost unfunctional. And the main of them is the inner strengths, but all of them needs to function together. Without being in our inner strengths, we cannot function with our self-love. We cannot fulfill our purpose. We cannot trust our intuition, and we cannot trust our wisdom, our knowledge. So all these 5 pillars of self needs to work together. And we can use very wide range of modalities how we can achieve that. So the techniques itself not important. I am teaching the techniques to do that very quickly and effectively in my course, Complex PTSD Blueprint, to speed it up for people. But it's not really about what we use. It is important to understand that we need all these 5 parts to function. Otherwise, it's somewhere not working. If we are not feeling safe, if we are not in our strength, we cannot taking care of ourselves, we cannot show ourselves up because we are still afraid. When we are afraid, we are not choosing what is the best for us and what is aligned with our purpose, because we just trying to survive. We cannot trust our intuition and our knowledge if we are afraid of reaction of the others, of the rejection or abandonment or be ridiculed. Yeah? So it doesn't matter what technique we use, and there is so many amazing people doing so many different amazing modalities, but it's important to understand that we all need this together, and this is common for all people. If have very different symptoms of trauma, but that disconnect and suppression of these parts, it's a common for all of them. But when we do start recovery from trauma, one very important part is to understand that there are 4 stages of recovery. And they are recognition, release, grieving, and rediscovery of self. And we all are in the different stage of that recovery. But some people are even on the beginning and they don't even realizing that they were traumatized, that their reaction are actually from their trauma. Some people don't even remember their childhoods correctly because it was just too much to remember. Then the release, we using different techniques, even start going to the gym and just start saying that putting out the anger which was stuck up, or doing yoga if people can meditate, or any form of breathing or any form of therapy which help them to express it and start releasing it. I personally using a combination of modalities to make it very quick and do it in a very short period of time, but everybody can choose what suits them. And then coming the part when most of people forgetting that it's happening, and that's a grieving. It's a trauma grieving when we do realize how much the trauma affecting our life, how much we lost, how much the life could be different. And that's sometimes why people get stuck in it and they stay in this victim mode, they stay in that depression and not moving forward because they cannot overcome that enormous feeling of grief, of why it's happened, why me, that's not fair, what I supposed to do with all that emotions of sadness, and they go to depression. So I would encourage everybody who working with people, with any modality or niche, to realize where on the journey of recovery the people they working they are, because all niches and modalities are useful and helpful, because that's only way how we can change the future. It's only way how we can break the cycle of passing on trauma on other people and heal our families and heal our relationships. Because now we hear so many people about women against men and men against women, and who is more toxic and which relationships are toxic, and all naming and blaming. But we are all traumatized. If it was First War, Second War, Vietnam War, Korean War, there is so many, and even before, there is so many generational and ancestral trauma passing on and passing on, and single moms, and men died in the war, and position of the men changed, and a lot of people just don't even know what is expecting from them. Nobody told them, nobody teach them, nobody helped them to understand what is the healthy femininity and healthy masculinity. So they are just get confused, and they are hurt from their childhood, so they acting all from the trauma. But when they start recovering, they can start looking back on their choices and realize that they just didn't know anything else. And it's so important to help people not to blame themselves for what happened in past, but actually moving forward, and start to apply these changes, and apply these feelings of being present, being happy, being purposeful, being joyful, because then we can change it. Then we can make changes in policies, we can make changes in schools, we can changes in families. But it's every single person needs make the change on themselves. Every person needs to engage with the journey and realize that I don't have to live in that trauma responses. I don't have to be silenced, but I don't have to be angry. I don't have to be sad about past. I have the right to be happy. I don't have to have the pain. I don't have to have autoimmune disorder. I can heal. I can recover. And then it stop passing and help their children, because that effect and the ripple effect on the families is amazing. I sometimes working with the two, and in some occasion even with the 3 generations, that effect on families, on their healing, on their partners, on their children, it's so beautiful to watch. If you can have the young people who will go in 18, 20 years old without trauma responses, the world will start changing. And it's not late. I have clients which are 20, I have clients which are 72. There's no time restriction on when people can get to the recovery, and that is possible. But then is the last part of it, and it's the finding who they really are without trauma, rediscover themselves. Because the most of people just don't know, even because when we are in trauma responses, we just grabbing, we not choosing, we just adapting, we just surviving. But that freedom of being yourself, that freedom to express yourself fully, that's enormous. And finding who we are without trauma. And there is so many beautiful stories here already today, and many more will come, and that's so encouraging to hear that so many people finding the way out of their past, out of their trauma responses, and finding who they really are, how they're flourishing, and what they can bring to community. Because the purpose is really that, how we can serve community, what is our value for community. And we all here coming with our own purpose, and we have difference, and in many things common. But being baker, its purpose, being binman, its purpose, if the people want to do that, if they feel the value in it. And encouraging people to get to that point that they can be themselves, then it's the best value we can get to the whole world. Because every person then starts fulfilling the purpose, everything starts changing, everything starts growing, because we are one organism as the human race. And I believe in human race, we are all one race with different shades of brown, and we are all human. and we all can recover. We all can be healthy. We just need to support each other on this journey of recovery. So I want to encourage everybody to find the way. If you want to, you can contact me. I'm happy to speak with people. I'm looking forward to see people in person in Rome in November on conference, and you can come to my course, Complex PTSD Blueprint, or listen to my podcast, Way Out of Childhood Trauma. Or if you want to share, come and be the guest, share your story, share your what are you doing, because it's about that we need to support each other in this global movement, this global movement of recovery. The global movement is changing the world to better. So all the global movement is changing the world. Can be without trauma responses. Also should be men without trauma responses and our sons. So the society will start really change, and that's what I hope for. Also, thank you very much for listening to me. And see you in Rome or in some any other regions. Contact me on LinkedIn and or on Facebook. And we're supposed to stay to the 25 minutes of presentation, so I try my best to stay to 25 minutes. I don't know if anybody
Thank you
has
so
any
much,
question.
Paspit, for the great presentation. So here is the question from our audience. So how do you integrate both traditional and non-traditional therapeutic methods such as CBT and Reiki into your trauma therapy practice?
So when we look on things from the different point of view, we will find that they have many things in common. So when we speak about Reiki, it's all about energy and how it's working. And a lot of people think that it's some energy which not measurable, or it's something strange or non-scientific. But actually, for example, Reiki, we can measure that energy. We have tools now. We have this machines which can measure that transfer of energy we all have around us. We can make the photos of aura, or we can measure the energy going through our body. I actually have here a little machine which was created in 1974. It's not even novelty, which is electronic acupuncture, and we can really measure how the energy in the body going. And we know that when we have the trauma, it's mean that our mind starts storing emotions in the body, and we need the way to release it. So how I combine it is that I created the method which I'm calling somatic hypnotherapy, and there are tools which I'm using as part of hypnotherapy, which actually working with the energy in the body to release that past trauma, which is very effective and very quick for people. And also, when we working with cognitive behavior therapy, we combining how people reacting, so they need to learn react different way. Because in nutshell, if we will take it in nutshell, the trauma is lack of education. The mind doesn't know what else can do with that situation. So any new form of release, any new form of strategy we learn, helping our mind to create a new reaction, because the trauma, it's not that even which happened, but our reaction to that. So our reaction, it's always definition of our mind. It's like the program which will be created, the new one, and every time when we put some new information in, the mind will recalculated and came to the different result. So I'm trying to combine all different techniques together to achieve as quick as possible change for people on all levels. So on level of what is stored in the body, how they understand things, and how they learn to act in the daily life. Because when we do recovering from trauma, the people will realize that they don't know how to act without that. They didn't learn that. So for example, CBT helping them to learn how to react, or learning assertivity, learning how to express their boundaries, because they didn't know how to do that before.
Thank you so much. That was really a great explanation for our audience question. So thank you so much for joining the Day 2 Global Virtual Summit 2024. So we want you to participate our future sessions as well and show some love and ask your questions and you can even share this live to your friends or anyone on in the social networking sites. Thank you and have a nice day. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye.